Thought groups and blending. To make ideas clear, writers use punctuation marks such as commas, periods, dashes, colons, and semicolons. Similarly, speakers also want to make their ideas clear to the audience. However, instead of using punctuation, speakers use thought groups. It is important to point out that the location and frequency of thought groups will vary from speaker to speaker. In informal speech, speakers will use longer thought groups and fewer pauses. On the other hand, in formal speech, speakers will use shorter thought groups and more pauses. Example of informal speech. Often there are little or no facilities for preparing food. Your college may offer meal plans where you're entitled to freely use on-campus cafeterias for a fixed cost per semester. Often, however, this meal plan is quite expensive. In many cases, students living in dorms are required to purchase a meal plan, but there may be many plans to choose from. Sometimes, meals may be included in the cost of your dorm room. Example of formal speech. Vampire bats are very ordinary looking, weighing about 1 ounce and with a body the size of an adult's thumb. They are 2 3/4 inches in length and have an 8-inch wingspan. Their colonies are quite structured, with strong social bonds, grooming each other, and recognizing their fellows with voice and smell. The structure is imperative to their survival, as there are many nights when a bat may not find a host to feed on. At that point, the hungry bats are fed from others through a process of regurgitation. In the wild, vampire bats live to about 9 years old, but can reach 20 years in captivity. Vampire bats mate all year round and usually have only 1 offspring per year. Gestation is 6 to 8 months in length. In today's lesson, you will learn some guidelines about thought groups, which can help you to communicate more clearly in informal and formal speaking situations. Listening Activity 1, Dependent Clauses and Thought Groups. Listen to the following sentences and see if you can determine why the speaker uses thought groups. Then repeat the sentences after the speaker. 1. It is important to understand why certain birds are attracted to windmills. 2. Because he was elected student body president, Mark has decided to petition for a decrease in tuition fees. 3. Bobby Stevenson, who was my neighbor for 5 years, has decided to move to Europe. 4. That 3 students were absent was frustrating since the professor has scheduled an exam that day. 5. Susan will finish her homework as soon as she finishes watching that TV program. Rule. Make a break in speech along with a slight drop in intonation at the end of an independent or dependent clause, for example, noun clause, adverb clause, adjective clause. Listening Activity 2, Phrases and Thought Groups. Listen to the following sentences and see if you can determine why the speaker uses thought groups. Then repeat the sentences after the speaker. 1. I like to shop on holidays in order to get the best deals. At the game last week, John struck out 8 batters. 3. She put the book on the desk next to the lamp. 4. Next to the San Bernardino Mountains lies the campus of San Bernardino. 5. At the baseball game yesterday, Susan hit the softball over the fence. The rule? Make a break in speech along with a slight drop in intonation at the end of prepositional phrases, noun phrases, and verb phrases. The thought groups for these phrases will depend on their length. Listening Activity 3, Transitional and Parenthetical Expressions and Thought Groups. Listen to the following sentences and see if you can determine why the speaker uses thought groups. Then repeat the sentences after the speaker. 1. As I said at our first meeting, the customer is always right. 2. A good business, both non-profit and profit-oriented ones, must have honest employees. 3. First of all, John was not the one who mismanaged company funds. 4. Larry, as you all know, has won the Best Salesperson Award 3 years in a row. 5. As a result of her hard work, Kelly was given a significant raise at her job. Rule: make a break in speech along with a slight drop in intonation at the end of transitional and parenthetical expressions. The following is a list of transitional expressions which form thought groups. Also, as a result, besides, consequently, finally, first, for instance, for example, for this reason, further, furthermore, however, in addition, in the same manner, in other words, in conclusion, in fact, in summary, in contrast, in short, later. Likewise, meanwhile, moreover, nevertheless, next, on the other hand, on the contrary, second, similarly, specifically, still, that is, then, therefore, thus, to sum up, to illustrate. Speaking Listening Activity 4, Unscramble the thought groups. Unscramble the thought groups into logical sentences. Then, you will see how the sentences could be logically arranged. Lastly, make a digital recording as you read the sentences aloud. You should remember to use a slight pitch fall on a non-final thought group and to use a full pitch fall on the final thought group. Make sure that you speak directly into your microphone so that you can get a clear recording of your pronunciation. After you finish, compare your recording to a sample native speaker recording. Pause the video now to unscramble the thought groups. Pause the video to now check your answers. Now, make a digital recording and read sentences 1 through 5. Make sure that you speak directly into your microphone so that you can get a clear recording of your pronunciation. Pause the video to make a recording of sentences 6 through 10. Now, listen to me read the sentences 1 through 10. 1. The rowdy student was eventually sent to talk with the principal. 2. Most firefighters report having injuries on the job fighting fires. Three, a good accountant helps a business reduce taxes during tax season. 4, a happy couple knows how to solve problems during times of crisis. 5, competent lifeguards can swim long distances in the ocean. 6, police officers may make arrests at riotous soccer games. 7, the intuitive pastor will deliver an applicable sermon to his congregation. 8, competitive salespersons will sell automobiles at discounted prices on most holidays. 9, a construction worker often does road work at night so as to avoid causing traffic jams. 10, firearms should not be used by people with criminal records.